You are listening to the Life, Hope, and Leadership podcast with Nick Shabrinsky, a transparent, honest, and encouraging podcast to equip you through real-life experiences.
What's up, beautiful people? Thanks for jumping in with Life, Hope, and Leadership with me, Nick Shabrinsky, Chybrzynski. I can tell we are friends if you know how to spell my last name. But hey, I'm so glad you're listening to these podcasts. If you are finding them enjoyable, encouraging, challenging, life-giving, make sure you follow, make sure you click subscribe, do all that good stuff. And do me a favor, send them to like 5 people and be like, yo, if you like this, subscribe to it. Makes me feel like I'm actually doing something worthwhile. I'm just going to be honest. But I'm just grateful to have this podcast. I'm grateful for all the encouraging words that I've received from people, all the people that are subscribing, and then people actually financially supporting. Thank you so much. You guys are in it for the win. Thank you. Hey, I wanted to jump on this podcast today. I've talked about it for a couple weeks saying I was going to do it. So here it is. I was going to talk about just relationships, friendships. I'm sure there's going to be many, many more in this set of podcasts I do over the years. Remember, this is called Life, Hope, and Leadership. And relationships are kind of fall into the category of all three. And I thought it'd be really good just to share some thoughts on it. We are living in a post-pandemic world, which has revealed the quality of all things. If you are writing things down, taking notes, I encourage you, just, what we've gone through over the last few years has tested all things. The Bible, I'm a Christian, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. I believe a lot of people have messed that up, but I do not believe Jesus is messed up. And that being said, the Bible says everything will be tested with fire. In the end, everything will be tested. And whatever remains is what will exist. And, it just kind of falls true even in today's society. Everything's being tested. Your beliefs, your values. I remember watching a video the other day of Elon Musk being interviewed, and the interviewer was saying, you're going to lose money. You're going to lose sponsors. People are going to back out because of the stuff you tweet, the things you say. And he said, so what? Like, if I lose money, now you're talking to a guy who has enough money that it probably isn't as pressuring as it would be for someone who's trying to get ahead even more and has a little more financial restrictions. But the truth remains the same. He said, you know what, whatever. If I lose, he said, he quoted the Princess Bride, offer me money, offer me fame. I don't want it. He said, so what, if I lose money or lose stuff or sponsors because of me being who I am, then so be it. And I really respect that. I don't know a lot about Elon Musk. I like Teslas, and I think he's insane wanting to go to Mars, but whatever. That's not the point. But one thing I do value is that the guy's going, look, I know who I am. I know who I want to be. And if that means that you don't want to come along for the ride, then so be it. And a lot of times, in situations today, it's like, oh, you're going to be canceled. You're going to lose this job. You can't, It's just this list goes on of these fear-mongering situations that are kind of brooding over people. And I just want to encourage you, man, like that in life, you came from where you were. And I know this sounds so stupid and cliche, but please just listen. You came from where you were. You are where you are, and you decide on where you're going to be. You came from where you were. You are where you are. There's nothing you can do about those two things, but you decide where you're going to be. And that's important. It's important that you really evaluate that statement because, I get around a lot of older guys, and it's older men who have an issue with this, that say this statement all the time. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. And my dad will tell you all the time, he says it to me all the time. Can't teach an old dog new trick. I'm like, come on, man, roll over, Spot. It's a shame that there is a kind of a season we enter to where we have just become familiar with who we are. And familiarity can bring a few things. It can breed complacency, which is, I'm just going to stay this way. Contempt, which is, don't tell me how to be. Or it can bring aspiration. And you can go, look, man, I know who I am. And I have decided I want to be wealthier. I have decided I want to be healthier. I have decided I want to be stronger. I have decided I want to accomplish more. I have decided I want to start a business. Like, realizing where you are offers many opportunities. A lot of people just don't self-evaluate. And because of that, they fall into circumstantial livelihood. And I want you to, like, just seriously close your eyes real quick, unless you're driving, and say, avoid circumstantial living. You cannot become a product of circumstance. You cannot become a product of consequence. Now, the consequences and circumstances are a product of what you've done, but you cannot just be what you are circumstantially. Like, I grew up without a lot of provision. I grew up with a broken home. I grew up with a lot of addiction around me and depression and death and suicide. But I could have become that and been just, well, that's just the way I was raised. And that's kind of the concept of nurture versus nature. But I decided I don't want to be this way. And when I look into the mirror of who I am, like the Bible and book of James says, look, don't be like a man or woman who looks in the mirror, sees what they look like, and walks away forgetting that. I looked into the mirror of realized, man, I got real major issues and I got to grow up. I got to change this. I got to change that. And I still do that to this day. But one of the things that I've seen affected circumstantially is relationships. And today I'm not talking about intimate relationships. I'm not talking about romantic. When I was trying to do some searching on just information on relationships and studying it a little bit, everything that when I type relationships always goes back to intimacy of romantic. And it's really annoying. It's, every relationship is a relationship, but we're talking about friendships today. And I just kind of want to break it down this way. When the pandemic happened, and if you're listening and you don't know me personally, I am a pastor of a church. And when the pandemic happened, doors shut, seasons changed, people shifted, emotions broke, minds fractured, and our whole nation went into lockdown. And that was a testing of fire. And a lot of things that were in existence were tested at that time. On an average, 10,000 churches shut down every year during the pandemic, 45,000 churches shut down in the United States of America. And so you got to think, like, a lot of pastors and a lot of churches, 80% of churches have less than 100 people. So a lot of those churches, 35,000 extra churches in the United States shut down. People quit going. They quit engaging, and a lot of relationships happen in that way. A lot of people had relationships and friendships that with people at Walmart, employees that were working at Walmarts and Targets and different stores, and those relationships were tested. I personally had people I loved and valued, people so close to me, people I cared and cherished so much in my heart, just walk out of my life in that season. And there's a few things that happen when relationships shift, and what we can call today is relation shift or, whatever, I don't know. But something happens when relationships change. And the first thing that happens is you get emotional. And then when you become emotional, you either become evaluative or you become irrational. And evaluative is a healthy place to be, because that's where you sit down and go, okay, well, let's look at what happened. Like, the glass broke. Okay, I love the glass. Am I just going to become emotional, or am I going to go, hey, what happened? And the way I can explain that is when I was a child, I think I was like 10, 11, 12 years old. I was emptying the dishwasher, and I grabbed a glass out of the dishwasher that had just dried, and I was thirsty. So I put it under the faucet, filled it up with water, pulled it away from the sink, went to take a drink, and the whole bottom fell out. And I realized that extreme changes, quickly made, can fracture the bond between glass. Well, the same is true in life and relationships and in jobs. And, I taught a message during the pandemic called A Christian's Cry in Crisis. One of the things I said is, do not make sudden changes, because the world is suddenly changing. So don't just quit your job. Don't just leave your marriage. Don't just X, Y, or Z, a bunch of stuff. But one of those things that I saw happen was relationships were fractured on every side. And, one of the things that happens when you become irrational or emotional or evaluative is you take things super personally. And what I've learned about relationships or friendships is a few things, and I want to help you with those. And I hope this will help you. I hope this will help you deal with maybe a loss of a friendship, a changing of a friendship. Relationships evolve. Now, the only relationship that should never evolve in a way of fracturing is your marriage. And I'm not going to go deep into that. I just believe that when you're married, you should fight for it. And I stand by that. But friendships and people in your life, they evolve. People, they change and they move. And there's now more of a separation and distance like never before. But the things that I learned when it came to relationships quickly changing, suddenly changing, and pastors, if you have a pastor in your life, send us to them. So we'll encourage them. But I learned one thing is that people are either for you, with you, or against you. People are either for you, with you, or against you. People are either with you, for you, or against you. The reason I give you these three categories is I learned that there are some people who are, they're for you. And I used to think that people were for you if they were with you. I had to learn this the hard way. Why? Because I grew up, a background, I grew up in military housing and I grew up in a broken home. So we were moving a lot and then we moved a lot. We moved a lot because of military and we moved a lot because of family breakups. And in doing so, I never really grew up with friends. And I was in my teens before I actually understood the concept of real friends that would be around for more than a few years. I was about 15, 16, 17 when I started going, wow, I actually have friends that might be in my life forever. But growing up, it was like a different school and a different friend every year. And that made me think that friends were only for you if they were with you. But I learned that in fact, one of the greatest ways that I learned this was as I started serving and operating and working in ministry, God moved me around the nation and around the world. And I started making relationships and friendships with people that I could no longer be with, but I'm so for them. I'm so like, they're some of my dearest friends. I have friends who are in ministry all around the world, friends that are in different states doing different occupations. I have friends who have planted churches and serve at churches. And I have friends that have started businesses and moved. One of my closest, dearest, bestest friends in the world and his wife were a part of us launching our church. They're literally like brother and sister to me. They're so close to me. It's insane. And at one point, right after the church started really thriving and growing, he said, hey man, I had to change my job and my job's moving me to South Carolina, Myrtle Beach area. And I was just devastated. And I'm like, man, like that sucks. Like I don't even know if I could succeed without him because we had just done so much together and nobody really knew me and my wife like him and his wife. They were our dearest support. And we had other great friends and leaders, people that are very, very dear to me. But these guys undoubtedly are my closest friends. And so it really, really hurt. And when they moved, and it didn't hurt, so the evaluative part was, wow, like they're not doing this to hurt us. They're not doing this to leave us. They're not like they have a life. They have kids. They have desires and dreams and destinations and they have responsibility. And so the move happened. And the emotional part, the irrational part will say, oh my God, you don't know how this is going to affect me. This is hurting me. Now I'm sad. What did I do wrong? Is it my fault? Can I do anything to get you back? These are the irrational sides of relationships. And it's sad because people let these things dictate them. And then what happens is nobody's able to transition from your life without you becoming a wreck, which makes you now back to our original point. You're living circumstantially. You're becoming who you're becoming based on how others have treated you or interacted or engaged or exited your life. So I realized now, because my closest friends, they were still for us. In fact, they still encouraged us. We still went on vacations together, still do. We still communicate often, not as often as I would like or they would like, but we do. And I go, wow, these guys are for me. They actually financially still support the vision and the dream of the church as well. Like they're behind us. They love us. They got my book. I check in with them. We try to send gifts and we spend time with each other. So there's like these things where you go, wow, you are not with me, but you are for me. And this is really, really cool because I kind of grew up with this concept of the moment that someone leaves you, they're not with you nor for you. But I learned now, wow, people can be for us even though they're not with us. And I see a lot of examples of this in the Bible. We can have a Bible discussion on it one day if you want. I only got a few more minutes to share this. But then there's people who are with you. And what I learned is that people who are with you are not always for you. And here's what I mean by that. Start speaking up to those who are with you what you're truly about, and you will find out if they are for you. See, your values, your convictions, your standards, your beliefs, those things define where you are and where you're going. And can I be honest? If you don't know where the bus is going, then you don't need to be on the bus. How about this? If you don't know where the bus driver's taking you, then you need to pull the red cord and exit ASAP. And friendships are either bus drivers or bus riders. Every friendship is either a bus driver or a bus rider. Oh, my friends, I'm not a bus driver. No, everybody is in the driver's seat at some point of a relationship. You're driving the destinations. You're driving the emotions. You're driving the repercussions. You're driving decisions. You're driving the motivation or the lack thereof. I had friends that loved to party with me, but they didn't want to go to church with me. They didn't care if I had a hangover, but they also didn't care if I went to heaven or hell. They believed in Jim Beam, but they didn't believe in Jesus Christ. So I realized, wow, you're with me, but you're not for me. I learned this because of over the years, through the pain of suffering, the for, with, and against. I decided I would rather have Christ and be alone than be surrounded by the crowds of people and have no Christ. So I've learned there are those who are with. Now, there are a lot of people who are with you and they are for you. I want to encourage you, be careful that when people leave you, that you don't think those who are with you are going to leave you as well. Some people are going to be with you forever. Some people are going to be with you for a season. And here's how I'll tell you to kind of keep sober on that, is you have had to leave relationships that you still value and love. And if they got all wounded and afflicted because of the transitions you had to make from their life, then you would be disappointed that you left that mark. So it's important that you're mature enough to understand that some people are going to be with you, some people are going to be for you, and whether they're with you or not with you, there are people who are against you. Now, people who are for you and with you are helping you get where you're going. They're encouraging, they're motivating. They might even critique, but they're not critical. People who are against you are critical. Everything's an issue. You're never good enough. You're never this enough. You never have that enough. You never have enough. You aren't enough. You're not skinny enough. You're not fat enough. Your boobs ain't big enough. Your boobs ain't small enough. Your muscles aren't big enough. Your muscles aren't small enough. They always got something to say. Your car ain't nice enough. Your car's a piece of crap. Your car's great. You got too nice of a car. Your house is too big. Your house is too small. I've come to terms with this. My life is, I live put in the public eye, and people are often either for you or against you. And sometimes it's just the ultimate extremes. You shouldn't have that. You shouldn't have this. You shouldn't be this. You shouldn't be that. Your picture shouldn't be online. You're this, you're that. And you got to come to terms with that. And you have to look in the mirror and go, I am becoming who I'm supposed to be. Because what will happen is when people are against you and when people leave you, you will overconfidently love the person you are and lose sight of the person you're meant to become. Your wounds will cause you to become arrogant and proud, and then you'll start saying stupid crap like, I don't care what anybody thinks of me, or whatever, I'm just cutting people off, or it was a toxic relationship, or they're a narcissist, or blah, 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 blah. And you hear this stuff all the time because what happens is some people leave you because you suck. Let's just be honest. Some people leave you because you have a bad atmosphere. Some people leave you because you're mean. Some people leave you because you stink. Some people leave you because you just don't change. You won't grow up. You won't leave an old lifestyle, an old way of thinking and move into the next. But some people leave you because you're moving on. And some people leave you because you're growing and you're changing. And some people leave you because they just don't believe in what you believe, or they can't continue to go where you're going. And both of those are okay as long as you are able to evaluate and say, is it them? Is it me? Is it us? Or is it we, right? You need to be able to sit there and go, man, is it them? If it's them, that's okay. If it's me, that's not okay. Unless it's a good me. If it's a bad me, then I got to change. And so what you need to stop thinking is, oh, they're toxic, or they're narcissist, or I'm just cutting people off. And sometimes I hear people, they go, oh man, the moment they leave somebody, they don't know how to just say, hey, I know I'm not going to be with you, but I'm for you. I love you, but maybe our friendship's just not that good for us. Hey, I love you and I'm for you. I have friends that I can't be friends with if I'm going to stay their friend. They're good people. They love God. They're awesome. Maybe they're just awesome people. They're encouraging. Maybe some people just love them, but we just don't see eye to eye enough that if we talked often or spent time together, we would frustrate our friendship. But I would rather be for you and not with you than to be with you and against you, because we just can't click. We can't vibe. And you need to realize that you can agree with people on multiple things and still not be good together in the same room. And so I just want you to realize followers are not followers and friends are not friends. Just because you got clicks and likes and shares, I got a lot of friends on Facebook, but I'm not sure how many of them actually love, value, or believe in what I live my life for. In fact, I kind of feel like if I have 5,000 friends on Facebook and I put a podcast, it should have 5,000 listens if everybody on my friends list really friended me and valued me. But then we know that at the end of the day, the world has become so small yet so big, and it is impossible to be with and for every single person. But I'll encourage you, back off the against. Remove the animosity, bitterness, anger. If you're looking at people's pictures and it's still evoking other emotions in you other than, you know what, I'm cool with them not being in my life, or I'm for them even though I'm not with them. If you got these things unsettled, it's taking more of your ability to become who you're meant to be than it is them. It's like unforgiveness and bitterness, my pastor taught me, is like swallowing poison and expecting the other person to suffer. You got to release these things. And let me give you some clues on what you need to be looking for in relationships. And you have to understand, I have to understand this, and we have to understand this, that most relationships are not a for and with forever thing. There are people who will be for you forever. There will be people who might be with you forever, but rarely will you have people for you and with you forever. But going forward, look for vulnerable relationships, real relationships that the conversation is on common grounds. You can even disagree, but still have an intimate, strong friendship. Look for intimate relationships, ones that can be close, ones that you don't mind someone putting their arm around you or sleeping on your couch or using your car. People that you can go, I just really value, I believe in you. I'm vulnerable with you. Look for authentic, very real, very honest. Look for loyal and look for covenant relationships. And so I can share more on this, but I just wanted to encourage you today. Look, don't get destroyed when people are exiting and entering your life. Be a revolving door. Just understand not everybody's going to walk out it, but when people walk out it, you can't get bent out of shape. That being said, thank you for listening to Life, Hope, and Leadership. I hope you guys like this episode. Like, share, follow it, please. And thank you so much for all your love and support. Change your world this week.
You are listening to the Life, Hope, and Leadership podcast with Nick Shabrinsky, a transparent, honest, and encouraging podcast to equip you through real life experiences.